So Keith, thanks so much for being a part of our community practice channel here on YouTube. On behalf of SETSU, we want to thank you so much for your leadership today.
It's my pleasure.
All right. So as always, we begin by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective generations. So you can please do us the honors by introducing yourself to our listeners and viewers and tell us about your amazing work.
Yes, thank you. Well, I am Keith Gordon, and I'm leading an organization that has the name Anhart. There's actually many versions of it, and there are many related organizations. It's sort of like a rose by any other name is still a rose. So for the last 40 years, I've been involved in community development work in Africa and in other places, and mostly in Canada, working in community development from the bottom up, working with community organizations to help them get stronger and to find impact investments and to overcome the challenges of their unique communities.
Fabulous. We thank you for your work. And if you can articulate your personal mission and vision for us, and what inspires you about the work that you do?
Well, I guess I'm very dedicated to rediscovering the natural order of things when it comes to community development. So I'm very committed to self-organizing systems, and everything I learned by living for many years in East Africa and learning to be a Swahili speaking person, living in villages, working with people in extreme poverty, finding out how they overcame challenges, how they work together, and then years later, being in Canada again, which is my home, and studying complex adaptive systems and understanding how communities actually can self-organize. They have the greatest power when people are working together and letting networks form to overcome challenges. So that would be my quest, to keep being a lifelong learner and understanding how those processes work.
That's awesome. And that actually ties into my next questions is what challenges and barriers have you faced and how were you able to overcome them or in the process of overcoming them?
Well, we live in a reductionist society, parts of this world, growing parts of this world, I would say, where we have been strongly influenced by modernity, by the scientific revolution, by an overemphasis on rational thinking, by forgetting that the natural order is nonlinear and it's very interconnected on how it develops. So how do we do community development in a world that wants to control all of the processes from the top down? And so the challenge for me has always been to identify with local communities, which we're doing now all over Canada. We're working in every province and territory in Canada for affordable housing development and social enterprise. We're working in different parts of the world in a Sustainable Villages program and so on. And every single time we come across local groups that we try to help them, and they're wondering, well, how are they going to do the development in a top-down world where they have to compete for resources? So the greatest challenge is modeling self-organizing community and seeing how local leaders, local groups can get together, can develop their housing, can develop their social employment, can develop their equality structures in their community by convincing themselves that they actually have the resources within to do that.
Absolutely, 100% agree. So what about any key priorities that you're working on currently? Is there anything that you want to amplify at this time?
Well, I would say for our international development, We are doing our best to work with the groups that we help get started. There's more than 100 internationally, that they would shift from a dependence mentality to a realization that they can be empowered themselves. And yes, they can find resources from elsewhere. And in Canada, it would be very similar. We're trying to develop affordable housing across Canada. There's a housing crisis, and there are many nonprofits and indigenous groups and others in Canada who are trying to develop housing, but typically they're competing for resources, and they feel that they're out of the loop usually for those resources. We're talking to municipalities and nonprofits, and we're trying to help them understand that if they can get projects started, and if they can shift their mentality and realize that they do have these abilities, then they can follow a kinetic energy, and those projects have a much higher probability of being realized.
Yes. Very good. Very good. So if I can ask you generally, how do you feel about the future of social impact in Canada?
Well, I feel that the trends are going in the right direction, because as the top-down systems lose energy, which happens inevitably in the cycles of society, then the bottom-up systems, let's say the grassroots community organizations, they start looking for ways to empower themselves. And other parts of the community look for ways to empower those natural energies. It starts just happening on its own. And actually, for many years, we've understood alternative communities. The former president of Czechoslovakia, Václav Havel, went from prison to president, and he was a big promoter of alternative communities. Over the years, I think alternative communities became a bit reclusive sometimes, but I think there is a new type of alternative community that can be born, and they're very much outward looking and very much interconnected, and so I think that as we are moving to sort of a postmodern world where we're trying to, it's interesting that the West is relearning from indigenous cultures what they knew all along. You don't have to teach self-organizing systems in a village in East Africa or in a First Nations group. They understand that inherently. So it's almost like the powers that be have to unlearn non-sustainable ways of governing and developing, and we have to relearn that. And I think it's happening, and a lot has to do with impact investments. I think where the world still is governed by how do we access capital? How do we access money? And as governments are spread thin, it's an opportunity for communities and the good side of business to get together and let governments come from a guiding perspective, maybe from governments, but have communities directly accessing impact investments. And that way, I think the future looks brighter.
I agree. We have to put those lenses on because there's more generations to come. So we are laying a foundation. We know that collaboration is the key to social change, so that when we collab like this, like what we're doing now, the next generation will see that, hey, you know what? They are holding us accountable. So we're actually doing something in order to make it a little bit more easier, at least aligned in the right direction. So I'm very hopeful as well. You have to be. You have to be. Awesome. So what is the ultimate, like if you were to summarize, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like to you?
Well, I guess in my lifetime, I would like to live out my days passing on what I've learned. And so doing the opposite of sort of a centralized legacy. My goal would be to work with all of the 20 and 30 somethings and 40 somethings that are in our international network, and especially teenagers who are so keen for a new type of living that has meaning and purpose. So my ultimate challenge would be to be faithful to the principles that we've learned in our own processes, and the people that we are connecting with every day, whether they're directly a part of our organization or indirectly connected. We talk about community champions all the time. And so there are people from the business community, from professional community, and from every walk of life that can be influenced by a new way of thinking, where there's a triple bottom line. It's not just about profit, it's about people and place as well. So I guess my goal would be to live it out. I've spent many years in villages. I've lived in rooming houses in inner cities, and now I'm trying to work with investment structures. So it's taken me away from sort of those grassroots experiences that I had, but I never want to forget that. I think my goal would be to never forget all of those lessons I've learned over the decades, and be true to those principles.
Wow, Keith, this has been really, really impactful. We really appreciate all the work that you do. So, uh, your closing thoughts and calls to actions as we close.
I guess my closing thoughts and calls to action are um, for everybody, including myself and the people that we meet every day, to think more about the natural order and how the universe organizes and sustains itself, and the highs and lows. In an ant hill, you have an ant colony has many ants, but no one is leading. Ants are just being faithful to the interactions with the other ants. They can say a few things to each other through their antenna or through the pheromone trails they leave, and then those signals that we have, they do something. And they create a whole that is more and different than the sum of the parts. So I guess my encouragement is that all we have to do is wake up every day and think, wow, it's so wonderful to be alive. It took many years to create us. And we have this opportunity that we're alive. We can respect and be good stewards of nature and of our relationships, and don't worry always so much about the big picture. Let it self-organize, be faithful on smaller principles, and just see where the adventure goes.
Awesome. I love it. Keith, thank you so much for this. We really appreciate all that you do. We wish you nothing but more success, more safe travel, and more impact. We thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
All right. So we will close the way that we began by acknowledging original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So once again, Keith, thank you so much. We'll definitely be in touch and do some future collaboration.
All the best.
You too, dear. Thank you.